My name is Waffles, and I'm a government whistleblower turned political commentator, and this is the last 24 hours in the news. Today is July 10th, 2025. It is currently 4:26 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. Here are the top U.S. news highlights from the past 24 hours. Texas flash flood crisis deepens. The death toll from the Texas Hill Country flood, which began on July 4th along the Guadalupe River, has climbed to at least 119 confirmed. Over 170 people remain missing, including at Camp Mystic, where campers were swept away by a sudden 30-foot rise in floodwaters. Local officials defended their response, but scrutiny has intensified over the timing of early code red alerts and limited cell reception in rural areas. Senator Schumer demands probe into weather advisories. Senate Minority Chuck Schumer called for a federal investigation into whether or not the National Weather Service (NWS) staffing shortages contributed to delays in flood warnings. While Republican leaders in the White House argue forecasts were timely, critics say recent NWS personnel cuts may have hampered coordination and emergency readiness. Los Angeles tunnel collapse, no injuries. An industrial tunnel collapsed in Wilmington, L.A., but all 31 workers escaped uninjured. Officials said the structure fell as workers scrambled to safety. Global trade and market sentiment update. U.S. tariffs continue reshaping global forecasts. The Bank of Japan noted limited export impact so far, though companies remain uneasy. Markets are calm for now, even as investors weigh upcoming Q2 earnings and additional tariff measures on semiconductors and pharma sectors. The Texas flood tragedy raises urgent questions about warning systems, rural infrastructure, and emergency protocols, especially amid climate-driven storm intensification. Schumer's push for an NWS probe reflects a bipartisan tension between agency funding and public safety. The safe exit from LA's tunnel collapse shows pockets of resilience amid broader concerns about aging structures. With trade and tariff issues looming, calm markets may be temporary. Corporate earnings and policy moves could quickly shift sentiment. Here are today's U.S. stock market ETF closes for July 10th, 2025. This is actually, this would be the market close on the 9th yesterday. Today is July 10th, but this is what it closed at technically yesterday. The S&P 500 closed at $624.06, up 0.6. Investor sentiment remains cautiously optimistic amid ongoing trade policy adjustments and anticipation of Q2 earnings. NASDAQ QQQ ended at 556.25, rising 0.71%, led by continued strength in tech and growth sectors. Dow Jones DIA finished at $444.52, gaining 0.48%, supported by industrials and consumer discretionary stocks. What's driving today's gains? Earnings optimism. Markets anticipate upbeat Q2 results, especially in technology and consumer-facing companies. Trade signals signs of progress in trade negotiations and tariff clarifications have eased investor uncertainty. Yield behavior. Treasury yields have stabilized, supporting risk on sentiment and narrowing sector rotation across indices. Here's a regional breakdown of incoming hazardous weather across the U.S. Central Plains and Midwest. Thursday and Friday, increased risk of severe thunderstorms with damaging winds and hail. Friday onward, additional afternoon storms possible. Prepare for flash floods and sudden gusts. Stay weather aware, have shelter plans, and avoid flooded roads. Southwest and interior west. Thursday brings extreme heat with highs exceeding 100 degrees. Arid regions. Dry conditions continue. Fire danger remains moderate due to low humidity. Don't forget to hydrate, limit outdoor work midday, and heed local fire warnings. Southeast Thursday latter week, scattered storms and rain, occasionally strong with gusty winds. High humidity and heat will elevate heat stress risk in between storms. Use caution outdoors, especially during storms or heat spikes. Northeast and mid-Atlantic late week afternoons may see pop-up thunderstorms with gusts and lightning threats. Early weekend brings drier, hot conditions, mid-90s, before renewed storm chances on Monday and Tuesday. Stay informed on timing and allow buffer time for outdoor plans. Pacific Northwest continues with warm and relatively dry weather, upper 80s to low 90s, no significant precipitation expected, though fire weather remains notable in build-up regions. Avoid outdoor burns, follow local air quality and fire restrictions. Here's today's top international news highlights from the past 24 hours. Global markets hold steady amid tariff tension. Asian stock markets edged higher, lifted by Nvidia's record $4 trillion valuation, even as Trump imposed new 50% tariffs on copper and Brazilian imports effective August 1st. Investors appear desensitized, with markets largely unfazed and U.S. futures remain stable. Anticipation of Federal Reserve rate cuts provided further support. The dollar eased versus the euro and pound, while Bitcoin hovered near record highs and oil prices stayed around $70 a barrel. That's an increase from where they were at. It was at like $65 a barrel. Taiwan shows off U.S. tanks in military drills. During its annual war games, Taiwan displayed its first 4 U.S.-supplied M1A2T Abrams tanks with live-fire exercises focused on tank warfare strategies, highlighting lessons learned from Ukraine. The full order of tanks is expected to arrive next year. Vietnam cracks down on trade fraud to secure U.S. deal. Vietnam is enforcing stricter measures, including 40% penalties on illegal transshipments from China to comply with a U.S. tariff agreement reducing duties to 20%. This aims to prevent traders from dodging U.S. future tariffs. European markets rally on U.S.-EU trade progress. Europe's STOXX 600 index rose 0.5% as EU-US trade discussions showed positive momentum, especially regarding protections for the EU auto sector. The FTSE 100 in London also set new record highs. Flooding in China forces thousands to evacuate. Heavy monsoon rainfall and leftover Typhoon Danas in southwest China pushed 25 rivers past warning levels, prompting evacuations of over 10,000 people. Rivers in Chongqing and Beijing surged dramatically, raising alarm over aging flood control infrastructure. Nordic spaceports compete with U.S. launch capability. Sweden and Norway are rapidly developing Arctic spaceports to reduce dependence on U.S. launch systems. This comes amid a broader EU push for independent access to low Earth orbit as satellite deployments increase tenfold in coming years. Amid new tariffs, market resilience is reflected in investor confidence, but risks remained if trade policies intensify. Taiwan's military modernization signals firm deterrence against China, integrating advanced hardware with combat drills. Vietnam compliance strategy highlights how U.S. tariff policy is influencing regional supply chain adjustments. EU and U.S. dialogue shows cautious but hopeful movement toward expanded trade frameworks. Climate risk in China underscores vulnerability in flood defenses during extreme weather events. EU space independence marks a strategic pivot in global aerospace competition, signaling a shift in launch capabilities. My name is Waffles. Today is July 10th, 2025. It is 4:35 a.m., and this is the last 24 hours in the news.
So the Olympics is great, and Johnny for the others, you know, the World Cup, Johnny is the head of it. We had our top people, Wasserman. They all came in on the Olympics, and then I saw Johnny. And we got the World Cup, too. And, you know, it's only because they rigged the election that I'll be your president representing you there. You know, I got both of them. I got the Olympics and I got the World Cup. And I said, you know, it's too bad. One was in 2026 and the other was in 2028. And I said, I won't be there. I won't be your president. But then they rigged the election and now we won. So I'm going to be your president for the Olympics and for the World Cup. So, Johnny, thank you for the World Cup. And everybody, thank you for the Olympics. We're going to have a great time.
Hey guys, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment to my videos. And also, don't forget to check out my shop where you could get this awesome Real Patriots Punch Nazis t-shirt. America, fuck yeah! And if you go to the link tree in my bio on most platforms, it's got links to everything, all of my stuff. You can find my shop there. I'm on eBay. You can also get this cool Exterminate MAGA sticker, because MAGA's fucking cockroaches. And fuck MAGA, abolish MAGA, fuck you MAGA.